The press conference. I'm your host, Bill Apter, along with Associate Editor Craig Peters, and today our guest is Precious Paul Ellering. Paul, first of all, how did you patch things up with the Road Warriors?
It's a very long story, but let's leave it short and just say a lot of money was involved. That's all you need to know.
Great. All right, our next question is, again, very simple. Why did you take Jake Roberts under contract?
Well, because Jake is a consummate wrestler. He can bring it all together. He combines the talent of speed, agility, quickness, something which a lot of athletes, modern-day athletes, can't combine them all together, and he has them. And basically, money.
Okay, our fan question for this week. Trish Holmes of Minneapolis, Minnesota, says, you're a financial wizard. Why and how much money do you keep for yourself, and how much do you give to your guys?
That's not for her to know. Does Henry Kaufman tell everybody when interest rates are going to go up? Does Louis Rukreiser say, no, tomorrow's the day to do this and do that?
Well, you're being evasive. You don't want to answer the question, do you?
I'm just saying that is none of her business.
All right, if you don't want to answer the question,
that's
we'll just
it.
have to
I don't want to
wrap up
answer
the
the
interview.
question. It's none of her business. She shouldn't have to know that anyway.
Well, if you have a question you'd like us to ask your favorite wrestler, send it to Pro Wrestling Illustrated Press Conference, Box 48, Rockville Center, New York, 11571. If your question's used on the air, we'll send you absolutely free a Pro Wrestling Illustrated T-shirt. For Craig Peters, this is Bill Apter and Precious Paul Ellering. We'll see you down at the matches.
How much is made on them T-shirts? That's what I want to know. You know, hey, do I ask you that? No.
And certainly my congratulations to Jesse Barr. And again, my congratulations to the champion.
Like I said, Gordon, and they all know it, woo, around the world, nobody, but nobody does it like Ric Flair. Am I talking right? I'm going to be in the Omni today, and I want those women lined up 10 deep for 2 miles, because we're going to get around to all of them sooner or later.
Here's a special word.
February 26th at 8:30, a great night. NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Ric Flair, champion, defends the belt against Brad Armstrong. It'll be the Road Warriors, national tag team champions, taking on the big bad man from Borger, Texas, Stan the Man Hansen, and his partner, 420-pound King Kong Bundy, in a 60-minute time limit for the TV title. Jake the Snake Roberts, champion, against Ron Garvin. Nikolai Volkov, the strong Russian, takes on Chief Wahoo McDaniel. World's junior heavyweight crown. Les Thornton defends against Tommy Rogers. Ted DiBiase takes on Mr. R. The spoiler clashes with Johnny Rich. Jesse Barr against Pistol Pez. Tickets at the Omni and all seats locations for Sunday, February 26th, 8:30. Be there.
Well, folks, it's been a while since we've done this, but it's me, Greg, back with Dane for episode 6 of the Squared Circle Time Machine here on the It Was a Thing on TV Podbean feed. So, Dane, since we were not doing some shows for the last couple of weeks, because I went on a trip to Florida to see spring training, and I just got back from it yesterday, but there's been a lot of things that have happened in wrestling. First off, we got to mention about AEW Revolution.
Yes, Revolution. And this we were kind of talking in the pre-recording chat. Is it really a revolution if you don't have Timu Scott Stapp singing Revolution over and over again?
Revolution!
Revolution! I mean, if Tony Khan can find money to pay Reader Chatterton just to have a one-up on Vince, why can't he find money for Timu Scott Stapp to sing at Revolution?
Yeah. And I have to mention that Mariah Tony match was pretty good.
It was good. A little, maybe, I'm not a squeamish person as much, but it got a little too gory there at the end of too much. I was a little... See, the problem with the AEW, in my opinion, is you got to do blood spots sparingly. You can't just have John Moxley cutting himself just because it's a Tuesday, and then you have this bloodbath here with Mariah and Tony. And speaking of Mox, you know what? I think this is a case of this should have been the main event, like how Rock Hogan should have been the main event of 18 and Michael Saker should have been the main event of WrestleMania 25 because...
Holy shit! That match was fucking terrible between Mox and Cope.
And what a waste of building up Christian Cage with this, whatever AEW calls their Money in the Bank thing with probably some weird poker gambling terminology. I don't know. Blackjacks, aces and eights or whatever. I don't know.
I think wasn't the Casino Battle Royal he won?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
So what a waste of that. So congratulations, Baron Corbin, and I think Damien Sandow, you're no longer the most wasted cash-in on a championship match.
Oh, God, I forgot about the pathetic thing he did with Sandow. Oh. Yeah. Well, it wasn't quite as sad as his TNA run.
Yeah.
Now, the next thing we have to talk about is John Cena finally addressed the crowd after what seemed like 5 years. He addressed the crowd in Brussels, and boy, was the whole promo gold.
It was gold. It was the crowd reaction was spot on. It was cinema, as they would say.
And that kid, oh my God.
You know, you gotta think about that kid. Like, his folks spent whatever X amount of money for these tickets to go see the wrestling show. They get them and they buy the nice last time ever John Cena shirt, and then your hero pretty much cuts a skating promo and pretty much says, you know what, fuck them kids.
That kid is now in the Fan Hall of Fame with Angry Ms. Girl and Shocked Undertaker fan at WrestleMania 30.
Yes.
And maybe about 15 to 20 years from now, he'll be wrestling Nicholas.
Yes, Nicholas and disappointed Cena fan against Brody Lee Jr. for the Intercontinental Champion, and then we'll be having the night one main event of WrestleMania being Liberty Rhodes versus Rue Rollins-Lynch for the women's title.
And somehow Izzy does a run-in.
Oh yes, I forgot about Izzy. I think she's still on the independence circuit, isn't she? And she's still doing the Bayley Superfan gimmick, isn't she?
I think she is. So one thing I need to mention before I left on my trip, and I knew that this was probably going to be pulled from theaters as soon as I got back, I went and saw Queen of the Ring. And I got to say, very good movie. Now, I would highly recommend, after you watch the movie, the Figure 4 YouTube channel posted a clip of Dave and Garrett talking about the whole factual stuff of the movie and such. And it was very good after you watch the movie. But the performances were very good. And I gotta say, it's a good movie. I would say that The Iron Claw is a better film, like as an entertainment movie. But as far as like a wrestling movie, I think this was better.
Yeah. Well, you're also bringing forward a story that maybe only very few hardcore fans know about Mildred Burke. So bringing it to at least with the Von Erichs and Aaron Claw, they had a lot more mainstream appeal.
Yeah, especially because Carrie would be well known to most fans.
Yes. And whereas Mildred Burke, she was indeed a pioneer and one of the first women wrestlers other than Mae Young, I guess, at that time. So, and of course, Mae Young being associated with the WWE and knowing that history writes the winners of wars write the history. So we know that for whatever reason, WWE's never given Mildred Burke any proper kudos, I guess.
I think she is in the legacy wing of the Hall of Fame, though.
Oh, okay. Yeah, especially because I know Jim Rossi owned the rights to the Mildred Burke story, and you would figure that he would have been really pushing for her for something when he was there as the human resources person and had influence and all that kind of stuff as well too. So it's weird because we could have had like the Mildred Burke Battle Royal instead of the.
Oh yeah, the pathetic attempt at the Fabulous Moolah Battle Royal before Sticker said that doesn't work for us, brother.
Yeah, it's like, wait, she did what? She was what?
No. We're Stickers. We don't want to have our name associated with this shit. But before we started taping, we had some sad word get out that Bill Mercer, the former announcer for World Class Championship Wrestling, passed away.
Yes.
Aged 99. So he lived a very long life. And I got to say, absolute legend outside of wrestling. Even if you don't count the World Class announcing, was an announcer for the Dallas Cowboys. He actually worked, I think, in Dallas the day President Kennedy was assassinated.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if you go think the JFK was it the book depository that Oswald made the shots in? Like the sixth floor is like a museum. And I think a couple of years ago he did like an interview at the museum about it.
Yeah.
So if you can find that on YouTube, I'd highly recommend it.
Okay, yeah. Well then sounds like he was also pretty much also similar because I know with Stampede Wrestling, Ed Whalen, like he was also not just a Stampede, like he was a big sports guy with the local TV stations there too in Calgary, and I think he also used to call some of the Flames games too before he retired. So,
I would love to hear Ed Whalen call a Calgary Flames game. That would be so epic.
Yeah.
I wonder, did he get offended when Craig McTavish pulled Harvey the Hound's tongue?
Oh, I'm sure he would have. I'm sure even that in the early, and especially in the 80s when the Battle of Alberta, when you had Gretzky, Curry, and Semenko and all against Calgary, I'm sure some of those brawls would have been easily, all right, stop it. That's enough. It's too silly.
Okay, well, enough about that. We have to talk about some old school wrestling. Now, the WWE Vault YouTube channel, I can't say enough about them. As we are doing this, they are live streaming WrestleMania 3 right now.
Yeah. And they're also they added as well a WCW channel, which I was able to upload all Uncensored 95, which we did. So I was able to watch without the German commercials and the fullness of the King of the Road match. And it's better uninterrupted than it was being constantly interrupted. And then also they uploaded as well today Uncensored 2000 with Yapapai.
The Yapapai Indian strap match, Jack. And Big T. Can't forget about Ahmed as Big T.
Oh, yes. And Booker lost his T.
And then he became G.I. Bro again.
Oh, God.
Enough said about that. Well, the one show we are going to be talking about is from February the 26th of 1984 from Georgia Championship Wrestling from the Omni in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, for those that might not know, the Omni was to the southeast what Madison Square Garden was to the northeast as far as wrestling goes.
Yeah.
So the Omni would always get these big crowds, and it also helped because you had the Georgia Championship Wrestling TBS show driving those house shows. And at this time in 83, 84, it's TBS is like going lots of places because they got the satellite. They're this big super station at the time. So they're just having these big crowds in Atlanta. But as we would later find out, like later in the year, of course, Vince would buy Georgia from under Ole. And then because of the whole controversy with the sale, like Ole would start his own version of Georgia Championship Wrestling with Blackjack and Hooker, who's on Saturday morning. And then eventually Crockett would buy the time slot from Vince when he gave up. And then they would have the time slot Crockett. And then that would be what would be WCW.
Yeah.
But this is Georgia, I think maybe about, when was Black Saturday? July of 84. So we're like 5 months before.
Yeah, 5 months away from Black Saturday.
So whoever did this card, so I'm going to put the video up here. Like, whoever did the video of this probably just shot the matches. And I don't know what the video would be for. Maybe, like, if they needed to use footage, like, on the TBS show later or something. I don't know.
More than likely, I would think, because I would think that they would do similar things like at MSG or the Spectrum or Boston Gardens or wherever else, that they just have things recorded just because.
Yeah, because I think when the last Battle of Atlanta was uploaded on the network, the story behind that was because WCW did a crappy job organizing their tapes. They found it on like a VHS tape that just said Omni House Show.
Yeah, and of course, the last Battle of Atlanta was famous for having what would be kind of the precursor to, or a beta version of, Hell in a Cell.
Yep. It was Tommy Rich and Buzz Sawyer.
Yeah.
If that whole show gets posted to YouTube, we got to do a show about that too.
For sure, yeah. It's almost just like finding random Doctor Who episodes in like Ghana or the Samoan Islands.
Eventually, like once every 15 years, we found these old Doctor Who episodes that nobody's seen for 60 years somewhere in like some foreign country. But enough about that. We got to talk about this Omni House show.
Yes, we do.
Okay, our first match is Jesse Barr, the future Jimmy Jack Funk, against Pistol Pez Watley. I remember Pistol Pez Watley when he was Shotsko Watley. Do you remember that?
I think I have a very thin memory of that, so.
Okay. But then I think Jesse Barr, he would be like the fake Funk brother, right?
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah, because they made him Jimmy Jack Funk.
Jimmy Jack, yes. Yeah, because we had, when the Funks were there was good old Terry Funk, and then Hoss Funk, and then, Jimmy Jack. So I think Jimmy Jack, he also wore like a Lone Ranger mask for some reason.
No, the only thing that was missing was, they'll believe me, citizen. But one thing I want to mention is, we're watching the video here, and if you notice on the video on the Vault channel, if you look in the front row, there's like people that you would never see in a wrestling crowd in 2025.
No, you wouldn't.
There's like an elderly African-American couple. There's like a guy and his wife and what I presume is daughter. And there's a grandma with, I presume, her grandson with the grandma. Yeah. It's weird.
Well, for all we know, that could be the stunt granny as well, too. That's gonna...
Oh, take the bump.
Yeah, take the bump.
She's a stunt granny. How's that for pile driving, Miss Daisy? Now, let me look at Scott's review of the match, because he did post it on the blog of Doom. So let me read it here.
Okay.
They trade takedowns to start, and Pez gets a small package for two and takes him down with a hip toss. Barr goes through a chin lock, and that goes on for a while. But he charges and misses a knee lift. Pez makes the comeback with a running headbutt for the pin at 6:45. Well, that was not very much of an opener. half a star.
Yeah, it seemed like a really lackluster opener, but I don't know. I think maybe we're just spoiled with what considers an opening match these days. I mean, thinking back to the Revolution, where you have apparently count them, three match of the year candidates. It's stuff like this is going to seem like pretty blasé to us now, but one thing I liked about this crowd, they seem to be buzzing throughout the whole show. So I mean, it did the trick for the crowd, I guess, but it's hard to kind of try and look at it with modern eyes at times, it seems.
One thing I want to point out, if you pause 651 in the video here, after Jesse Barr throws Pez over the top rope, you see right here, there's this, I guess, security officer who is just casually eating popcorn and reading what I presume is the program for the event.
Yeah. Could have been on-duty police officer there to maybe make sure that the crowd doesn't get too rowdy or
pissed off.
Yeah.
Police officers are very lazy when it comes to events like this.
Yeah.
So the second match, we have the Spoiler against Johnny Rich.
And the Spoiler is a masked man, just to let the people listening, let them know.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not Pat Tanaka in a mask.
No, it's not.
He's way too large to be Pat Tanaka.
Yep. And a bit too tall, too, to be Pat Tanaka.
Now, one thing I want to point out is they have the same ref for all these matches.
Yes.
Could he only afford one ref? No wonder this promotion died and went out of business.
Well, apparently, I know, listening to various shoot interviews and podcasts, yeah, Ole was known as a real cheapskate when it comes to some things like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if he only had one referee on retainer the whole run.
This is going to be the most obscure reference probably ever. The referee looks like Ted Shackelford from Knots Landing with that bowl cut. The first and last time on a wrestling podcast you'll ever hear a reference to Ted Shackelford. Now here's Scott's review of the match. Spoiler, of course, quote unquote, adjusts his mask behind the ref's back during instructions. But Rich comes at him with a drop kick and hip toss out of the corner. Slam gets two, and Johnny slugs away in the corner and goes for the mask. But Spoiler runs him into the corner and rope walks into a forearm smash for two. That's right, folks. He did rope walking 7 years before The Undertaker did it.
Wow, that's actually... I'm trying to think, did Taker do rope walking too a bit when he was Mean Mark Callis and the Skyscrapers? Because
I think he did do rope walking. I think he did in that Great American Bash 90 match against Luger. Do you remember that match?
Not really.
Okay. All right, back to the review. Well, that's definitely Don Jardine then. Rich gets booted to the floor, and Spoiler lets him back in, and then hits him with another rope walk clobbering forearm, sending Rich to the floor to regroup. Back in the ring, Rich makes a comeback with a backdrop and drops a knee on him, but Spoiler rope walks away to escape, and Rich slams him off the top rope in a cool visual. But then Rich tries a monkey flip, and Spoiler thumbs him in the eyes to block it, and puts him in a claw hold of some kind, and Rich bumps to the floor again. Rich with a sunset flip into the ring, but Spoiler blocks that with another claw hold and squeezes the life out of him in 7 minutes. Impressive squash win for the Spoiler, who is doing all kinds of cool shit for The Undertaker. That's what I said, Scott. Star and a half. And Rich's face is busted open from the claw. Another nice touch.
This should have been the opener instead of the Watley match.
Yeah, this would have been a more entertaining contest.
Yeah.
Thought this was a very good match. I would say this is a 2-star match at least.
You're getting to see old school before old school was even a thing.
And then we see Pez and some of the baby faces help him out. And we see one of the wrestlers who's going to be competing in our next match. It's a gentleman by the name of Mr. R.
Mr. R.
Mr. R, and he's facing Ted DiBiase. Huh. I wonder who Mr. R is.
I wonder, too.
Huh. Gee, kind of looks familiar, Mr. R. Huh. Wonder if he knows the Midnight Rider.
Probably hanging out in the same spot as Charlie Brown from Out of Town and the Yellow Dog.
Oh, yeah. Charlie Brown from Out of Town. Get the fuck out with that shit. Okay, it's Tommy Rich for those that don't know.
Yeah.
He lost a loser leaves town match and now has to be like, this is the tired and true babyface gimmick of, oh, the babyface lost the loser leaves town match. And here's this mysterious masked wrestler who coincidentally has the same moves as the wrestler who was previously here. So here is Scott's review. Another masked babyface who lost the loser leaves town match and returns seems to happen a lot to Ted. The beer, gut, and shock of blonde hair under the mask should give it away that it is the identity of Mr. R. But in case you need a stronger hint, it's Tommy Rich. DiBiase works a headlock and Mr. R reverses to his own and takes DiBiase down with hip tosses and goes back to the headlock. And he really works on that thing until finally DiBiase reverses him to a wrist lock takedown and goes to work on the arm. But with R down, Spoiler and Jesse Barr both run in and try for the unmasking to claim the bounty offered on the mask, which is a DQ at 6:30 as Mr. R escapes with his mask intact. Not much to the match, but Mr. R escaping the three heels got a big babyface reaction. 1 star.
No, I haven't seen too much of Ted DiBiase's work pre-Million Dollar Man, so this was a treat for me, this match at least. So
yeah, because I think he was primarily like working Mid-South at this time,
yeah.
I think. And I think he was in All Japan too.
Yeah.
So he probably like hit Georgia for a bit because obviously the national exposure and everything.
Yeah, because I was kind of wondering. It kind of looked like, yeah, the Spoiler and Bass were the ones that did the run in, because when I saw the match and I saw these two guys run in and cost the match and I'm like, okay, one of them looks familiar. Oh wait, yeah, that's okay. That was a Spoiler guy. Spoiling the Spoiler.
And I think when you look, hold on a second, if I can put the video here, I'm going to share it right now. This is around the 25-minute mark. I think Mr. R takes off his mask and it's in darkness.
Okay.
And they can clearly, they know it's Tommy Rich.
Okay, yeah, I think that was similar to, like, thing I remember reading, like, hearing, like, when Hogan was doing the Mr. America thing, and then when they had, like, the dark matches after the show or at house shows or whatever, he'd, like, take off the mask and do, like, the pantomiming, it's a secret. And I think that's how they kind of found out. I think, like, once Hogan left, I think they used the actual footage from either a house show or after the show tapings that's Hogan and Mask, and Vince was like, I told you that was Hogan. And Hogan and Mr. America, you're fired.
God damn, pal, I can't believe you fans were this stupid. All right, now we have a match for the NWA World Junior title between Les Thornton and Tommy Rogers. Yeah, the World Junior Heavyweight Championship. Now, I'm not going to lie. The guy in the red trunks, I'm not sure who's who, but the guy in the red trunks, if I didn't know any better, I would have thought that was Paul Orndorff, even though I knew he was in WWF at the time.
Yeah. I think Thornton is the guy in the blue trunks, so...
Tommy Rogers, who, of course, would later be one half of the Fantastics. Let me read the Scott review here. And he does agree, Scott, that he does look like a young Paul Orndorff, although without quite the same amount of pull. They trade headlocks on the mat, and Les controls with a head scissors and some judicious cheating. Tommy with a sunset flip, and that gets 2, and he immediately snags Les in the head scissors to take him down, and Les reverses to his own. Man, these time calls are all over the place tonight, with the first match having a dead-on 5 minutes call. But this one takes until 5:50 to call it 5 minutes. Is there some weird time dilation thing in Georgia? Besides, everyone's still thinking it's 1920. Rogers makes a comeback and takes Thornton down with a headlock, but Les reverses into another head scissors to cut off the comeback and beats him down in the corner. Rogers with another sunset flip for 2, and Thornton gets a butterfly suplex for 2. Rogers comes back off a missed charge and drops a knee on him for 2, and then drop kicks him to the floor. But he tries a suplex back into the ring, and Les falls on top. Rogers keeps fighting, but misses a charge, and Thornton boots him down. Rogers with a suplex, and he goes up with a sunset flip for 2 and a roll-up for 2. But Les grabs the trunks and reverses to a cradle for the pin at 14 minutes. Super hot finish as the crowd was crazy for Rogers' babyface comeback there. 3.5 stars. Thornton was an unlikely WWF raid target, but that's wrestling for you. Yeah, this was a pretty fun little match.
Yes. Kind of the nice traditional wrestling style, I guess.
Now, I don't know a lot about the NWA World Junior title, so I'm going to wiki that here. Okay. I think this is it right here. The NWA World Junior Heavyweight Championship. Okay. Let me just look. So this is funny. Georgia Championship Wrestling announced that Les Thornton had won a fictitious tournament to become champion.
So something like Pat Patterson going, 15 other men going down to Brazil, and Pat came on top for the Intercontinental title?
Oh, yeah, probably. He was definitely less on top that night. And then it says American promoters vacated their version of the championship after Les joined the WWF ahead of the takeover of Georgia Championship Wrestling. Thornton continued to bill himself as champion, defending the title on WWF events in Georgia as the WWF Light Heavyweight Champion. I think Japan has something to say about that, pal.
Yeah.
And then later, Hector Guerrero would win the title in July of '84 in Los Angeles when he had won a fictitious tournament to become champion. Oh, let me see the lineage of this. Okay. Mike Davis won the title from Hector Guerrero on October 2nd of '84 at a house show in Albuquerque. And then Denny Brown won it from Mike Davis at Starrcade '84. And then I'm guessing at some point the championship like merged with like the real title in '85. So yeah, the fake championship merged with the real championship at some point in '85. That is just... And I think the belt is still active. Let me just see. Yeah, it is still active to this day. Alex Taylor is the current NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion. Won it in June of 2024 at Endless Summer in Highland Park, Illinois. Oh, man, this is a dream match for me. Wahoo McDaniel against Nikolai Volkov. I'm like amazed that Nikolai was here because I would have thought he was in WWF in February.
I was thinking, yeah, that's what I was thinking too, that he was, because he's there at least a year later because him and Shiki win the tag titles at the first WrestleMania. So
yeah, they win it from Wyndham and Rotunda.
Yeah, so
I'm guessing like he was purchased as part of the Georgia sale. And Wahoo, I mean, well, what can we say about Wahoo? I mean, the guy's a legend.
Yeah.
Right, here's Scott's review. Volkov was another unlikely raid target, aging quickly even at this point. But he ended up in the North soon enough too. They slug it out at the start, and Wahoo wins that battle, so Volkov puts the boots to him in the corner until Wahoo fights back with chops. Volkov with a backbreaker for 2, he goes to the bear hug, but Wahoo fights out of that, so Volkov puts him down with a back elbow for 2. They fight to the floor, and Nikolai is swinging chairs, but Wahoo escapes, and they head back into the ring, where Wahoo makes the comeback. But then the ref gets in his way, and Wahoo throws him away, so he continued beating on the Russian. And that's a DQ at 5 minutes. 1 star. Yeah, Wahoo should have gone easy on this ref. He's there for the whole damn show.
Don't beat him up too badly. got in there the rest of the show. We can't just not gonna have like time traveling Charles Robinson come running down the aisle and make the save.
Oh, could you imagine time traveling Charles Robinson doing the running like he did at WrestleMania 24? Our first of the big three matches on this show tonight. For the World Television Championship, Jake Roberts, the current TV champ, takes on the Hands of Stone, Ronnie Garvin.
And this was a match I thought this would have been the match you would have been looking forward to, as we got Ronnie Garvin here looking a little different with his longer hair and not his traditional Joe Namath buzz cut. And then we got Jake Roberts in a black shirt and long red pants. That's different. And also being introduced from Shreveport, Louisiana yet. Not Stone Mountain, Georgia.
And managed by Paul Ellering, no less.
I think I remember reading at the time that was stable was Roberts and Road Warriors, and that was the original Legion of Doom.
Oh, so
yeah,
Jake Roberts, the founding member of the LOT. No one talks about this.
No, not that ventriloquist dummy Rocco either.
Oh yeah, I wonder if Jake ever met Rocco.
Probably turned him into a bong.
Oh God, I don't want to say. Look, Jake is like, he's fully clean now. I mean,
he's clean, but still, it's
let's go to Scott's review here. Jake is managed by Paul Ellering as part of the original LOD concept. Jake takes him down with a headlock and goes to work on the arm for a while, and then puts Garvin down with a sweet knee lift for 2. Back to the arm as Ellering helpfully yells him to crank on the arm even harder, and the feed switches to a different source all of a sudden, with more desaturated color, and even more brightness. That reminds me of WWE 24/7. Garvin fights back and slugs Jake down in the corner, sending him to the floor back in. Jake fights him off and then runs away again for advice from Ellering, who tells him, lay off the crack if you want a longer career. I think that's Scott's commentating, not what Paul actually said. Sadly, Jake was too high on crack to heed that advice. Back in the ring, Jake offers a free shot and then sucker punches Garvin before dropping elbows on him and choking him out with some of his rib tape. Just crazy heat from Jake here, and Garvin powers out of the choke, but Jake punches him in the ribs to cut him off. He beats on Garvin with chops, and Ron is fired up as he beats on Jake's tapped ribs and makes a comeback while the crowd goes crazy. Jake gets tied to the ropes, and Garvin continues beating on the ribs, but the ref is bumped, and Ellering brings in a chair. Yes, because Paul had like a chair in the ring, and I think, let me just explain. So Paul's on top of the apron, referee's down. Paul is holding a chair. Ron blocks the chair from Paul. It drops on the ring. Ron attacks Paul. Paul bumps to the outside, and then Jake punches him. Jake grabs the chair, lays it down, gives him the DDT, Ronnie, on top of the chair, and then, gets the ref. And nicely, Jake smartly just rolls the chair out of the ring, oh, I don't want the ref to see this shit. Kindly, Paul wakes the ref up. Yep. He wakes Gary Ewing, referee, up. And then Gary Ewing, referee, does the 1, 2, 3. And Jake retains the World TV title.
Yeah.
So, 3.5 stars from Scott. And I gotta say, great match.
Oh, yes, it was definitely a pre-WWF star before the big time in the WWF. I know my parents had vague memories of Jake also in Stampede as well, too, around this time. So I know he would go back and forth between the US territories and then up here in Canada as well, too. So, and then seeing Garvin as, again, I think he's a little bit of an underrated worker here. And I'm probably going to have to give a second look again at that submission match between him and Valentine at the Rumble there in 1990.
I got to recommend a podcast on the Backbone Wrestling Network. My good friend of the show, friend of the podcast, I'll say, friend of the podcast feed, Keith Langston, does a podcast on the Backbone Wrestling Network called Hands of Z, where him and another guy review nothing but Ronnie Garvin and Larry Zbyszko matches. That's the whole podcast.
I hope their opening theme song is Larry Zbyszko's bars from the Wrestle Rock Rumble song.
No, I wish. I will say the theme song's great. So I think one of the things that they said is if they ever do a final episode, the final episode of the podcast is going to be a match between Larry Zbyszko and Ronnie Garvin. That has to be a real match between those two. That has to
a main event anywhere.
Larry Zbyszko versus Ronnie Garvin. That has to exist somewhere. Let me just put it in Google. Yeah, they did wrestle in '88, I think, at WCW. Yeah, there it is. It exists. I'm going to show the picture. It's from the Facebook group. So let me share it right here.
Okay.
There it is. The Hands of Stone, Ronnie Garvin versus the living legend, Larry Zbyszko.
Wow, there we go.
Okay, now our semi-main event of this show. The Road Warriors against the babyface tag team of Stan Hansen and King Kong Bundy.
Yeah, this was a total WWE GM mode moment match.
Yeah, this is like some weird match that would be set up in universe mode.
Yeah.
It's like King Kong Bundy as a babyface.
I was used to all these Bundy as the heel, like WrestleMania 2 there against Hogan, and then, of course, back in 95 as part of the $1 Million Corporation.
King Kong Bundy, to me, is just not a babyface. Maybe he's a babyface to me if he's doing like a Head Start commercial. But
yeah.
No.
Unless they just needed someone unless they're just faces by default because the Road Warriors are heels, I guess.
Yeah, they were super heels in '84 at this time.
Yeah, so
like, okay, Stan Hansen and King Kong Bundy, we'll support you, I guess. But my favorite part of this match is, okay, at the 1:16 mark, now that granny, she's like shooting off, I guess, at Paul Ellering. Look at her.
Well, yeah, I see.
I think oh my God, I think she flipped Paul Ellering off. Hold on a second. Yeah, she flipped him off. Oh.
That's a black screen moment.
Yeah. Say what you will, those Southern grannies, they took their wrestling seriously.
Oh, yeah. And actually, even I think, I'll tell a bit of a story here. And this was in 98. Yeah, 98. My dad and my little brother and myself, we went to a WWF house show. And it was like just a week after King of the Ring. So the original advertised match of Austin versus Mankind was no longer happening because Austin had his staph infection there, and then Mankind had the famous Hell in a Cell bump there match. And so the new main event was Undertaker versus Kane. And there were fans at ringside there giving Paul Bearer the business too. And Paul Bearer did a nice fat man jig at them too. So it was.
I can only imagine Paul Bearer being like, "Oh, I'm gonna jiggle. I'm gonna put on a show for you. Oh yes."
There was also a submission match between Ken Shamrock and Owen Hart. So, yes, and it was. And actually, there was Bizarro Land, as Jerry Lawler would call it, because Owen was the heel at the time. He was loudly cheered as the hometown babyface, and Shamrock, being the babyface, was booed mercilessly because we remember '97, Kenny. We know you teamed with them no good Americans.
You could also say it's a preview of the dungeon match.
Prelude to the dungeon match, which that at least had Owen going over. This night, Ken won with the ankle lock, and we just booed the hell out of him there. And I think if we ever do a thing about the madness of Ken Shamrock, like we did with Bob Backlund, you can thank us for making Kenny turn a heel later in '98, because he got on the mic afterwards and he told us all to kiss his ass. And there was some, again, I think the same fans that were giving Paul Bearer the business, they flipped off Kenny and Kenny flipped them right back.
Oh, man. Would this be a good time to mention, like, a couple of years ago, I got a Ken Shamrock Bend'em for like $5?
Yes.
All right. I did get a Wild Man Mark Mero Bend'em too for $5.
Wow.
Yeah. All right, let's get to Scott's review here. I believe this would be classified as a Haas fight. Hawk and Hansen electrify the crowd with a damn lockup, and Hawk is so overwhelmed that he retreats and lets Animal have a go. So Bundy comes in and sends Animal to the floor, as this is more than I've ever seen the roadies sell at this point in their careers. Over to Hawk again, who wants to test the strength of Bundy, and he loses that. So Bundy goes to the corner and dares Hawk to move him, and Hawk can't do that either. King Kong Bundy as a babyface is quite the deal, and I don't need it. Over to Animal, and Bundy slams him and brings Stan back in, and he hits everyone with elbows and gets 2 on Hawk. I miss fans who go who with every shot from the baby faces. We should normalize that happening again. Bundy and Hansen switch off on an arm bar in the corner, keeping Hawk there and working on the arm. Hawk fights up, so Hansen beats on him with elbows on the corners as they are slobber knocking out there. Animal finally cuts Hansen off, and they go to work on it and double team the arm. Just a couple of heels doing heel stuff instead of the drastic shift in dynamic that the team would take soon after. Hansen fights out, and they switch off behind the ref's back and stay on the arm, as Hansen gets the heat until finally fighting them off and giving King Kong Bundy a goddamn hot tag. This is incredible. Bundy runs wild and splashes Animal for 2 before Hawk desperately saves, but Ellering trips up Bundy and is breaking loose in Tulsa, and they just throw hands until it's so awesome that the ref can't continue and has to call for the bell at 15:22 to keep the audience heads from exploding due to how awesome it is. This was effing awesome. In case you didn't get that, 4 stars. They nearly had the crowd rioting because of a lockup. I can't go any lower on the rating. That's the rules. I don't make them. Yeah, this was a dynamite crowd. I mean, we saw the fan flipping off Paul Ellering. You know how hot they were.
Yeah. I think I mentioned, I think in this match there, when Bundy had one of the Warriors in the bear hug there, the crowd was freaking hot for that too yet.
Yeah, they were going nuts for a freaking bear hug.
We need to kind of get back to these basic stuff instead of just doing Spanish flies from the top of the cage spots.
Or like running through the middle ropes.
Yep.
Now, let's get into our main event of the night. For the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. The defending champion, the Nature Boy Ric Flair, is putting his belt on the line against the hot local babyface in the area, Brad Armstrong.
Of the famous Armstrong family.
Yeah. Now, of course, Dane, as a kid, when I started regularly watching WCW in 1994, Brad Armstrong was kind of like a bit of a jobber. So it was like, I didn't get the whole big deal with the Armstrong family as a kid until like much later.
Yeah.
When I got to watch like a lot of the old stuff with Bullet Bob and everything. And I got to see Brad's Georgia stuff. And I was like, God damn. Like, freaking Brad Armstrong is like one of the best. It's like how this guy was not a bigger star than what he was is like baffling to me.
Exactly. Yeah. That's one of the good things about having stuff like this WWE Vault channel, and even back in the days before that, like when you had 24/7 and the network as well too, you can go back and watch all these older shows and get a new appreciation for people.
And of course, Rick had won the belt in November of '83 back from Harley, the first Starrcade. And I want to say, I think this is around the time like David passed away.
Okay, yeah.
Because I'm trying to think, because he drops the belt to Kerry at the Parade of Champions in May. And I believe that would have been like 3 months after David passed away. Just
I think so, yeah.
let me just Google search. Okay, David passed away on February 10th. So this is about 16 days after he passed away.
Yeah, a little over 2 weeks after.
Yeah. So let's get into this main event here. And let's get to the review from Scott. Man, there's not many times when you feel bad that Ric Flair has to follow a match, but geez. Armstrong had won the title as the payoff to the Mr. R storylines shortly before, playing the role of R and beating Ted DiBiase for the belt after Tommy Rich appeared at ringside despite supposedly being the guy under the mask. I'm not sure why Rich was still playing Mr. R on the road at this point, unless it was weirdness with TV air dates and such. Brad works a headlock and takes Flair to the mat with that, and they work off that for quite a bit before Flair makes the ropes and then gives Brad a clean break. Test of strength follows, and Brad goes to work on the arm, but Flair escapes and offers a sportsmanlike handshake. Well, it was still fairly soon after Starrcade '83, so he was mostly a nice guy. Yeah, I don't think Rick fully turns heel until like around before the Starrcade '84 match or right after that with Dusty.
Yeah.
I want to say they're both baby faces at Starrcade '84.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometime in '85 he turns heel and
Yeah.
forms the Horsemen. Brad puts him down with drop kicks, and Flair retreats to the floor. Back in, Brad controls with the headlock, but Flair takes him to the corner for some cheap shots to turn the tide, and then beats him down with chops. Flair with the butterfly suplex for 2. He goes for a suplex, and Brad blocks that, and then comes back with forearms to fight out of the corner and unloads on Rick. We get a Flair flop off that, and Brad falls with a sleeper, as Rick is unable to make it to the ropes, but then falls down and gets his leg on it instead. Oh, sneaky. Brad with a suplex for 2. Flair tries a hip toss, and Brad counters into an abdominal stretch before making a comeback and beating on Rick in the corner. We get the Flair flop off that, and Brad smoothly hooks him with a backslide for 2. Roll-up gets 2. The ref accidentally counted 3 there, but Scrappy had done every match tonight, so I can cut him break. Yeah, poor referee Gary Ewing. He accidentally did a 3 count. Oh. Flair quickly goes to the top, and Brad slams him off and drops a knee on him for 2. They slug it out, and Brad beats on Rick in the corner. But Rick fights back with chops, so Brad gives them some of his own. Brad tries a crossbody and loses his footing, so Rick covers with a slam attempt, and Brad falls on top for 2. Another crossbody gets 2, but Rick rolls through this time and uses the ropes for the pin at 20-30 to retain. The slip in the corner was literally the only time I've ever seen Brad Armstrong miss a spot ever. He was just an impossibly smooth worker, and this was no exception. Probably one of the easiest nights of Flair's whole year in there, where he didn't need to carry a thing. 4 stars.
Wow.
That was definitely a 4-star match.
That was indeed a clinic of a match to watch.
Yeah. It helps when you have like 2 great workers.
Yeah.
Work an excellent match. And
exactly, yeah. Just like what Scott said there is just, usually Flair had to rely on having to maybe carry the match with some people, but when you have 2 people who can equally give and take, you can get some magic with that. Now, there's definitely some magic in that match.
And really, it's like, I don't think Brad like goes far, because he's mostly a lower card wrestler, like post '84. So this is like maybe the only time I've ever seen him like in a main event spot.
Yeah.
But damn, he's like really good here. There's no way that the NWA was going to give him the world title, but I mean,
no.
But I mean, I thought like He had enough work rate. I think he could have been like at least a TV champ or the national champion.
Yeah.
I don't even think, did Crockett hire him after they got the time slot from Vince in '85?
I am not sure.
Let me just check. Cage match, Brad Armstrong. Okay. They have, matches. Trying to see where he is in '85. Okay, I think he's mostly working Mid-South in '85. And I see some NWA shows around Alabama. So I'm guessing this is Continental he's working.
Yeah.
And he does, I think, come back over to Crockett in '86. And he actually wrestles a Bunkhouse Stampede match in July of 1986 at the Veterans Memorial Auditorium in Des Moines, Iowa. Do you want to know who won this Bunkhouse Stampede, Dane?
Who won it?
Todd Champion.
Okay.
Todd Champion won a Bunkhouse Stampede match. Look at this roster he beat. Animal, Arn Anderson, Barry Windham, Basher, Big Bubba Rogers, Bobby Eaton, Brad Armstrong, Colt Steele, Dave Peterson, Dennis Condrey, Denny Brown, Dick Murdoch, Hawk, Jimmy Garvin, Paul Ellering, Paul Jones, Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson, Rufus R. Jones, Sam Houston, Spike, the Barbarian, the Italian Stallion, and the Warlord.
A plethora of who's who. And they go of Todd Champion?
Oh, I got bad news, Dane. On December 30th, 1986 in Continental, he lost a loser leaves town match to Kevin Sullivan in Columbus, Mississippi.
Uh-oh.
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 But he does come back in April of '87 to
okay.
I think he's working Crockett, so I guess this is him leaving Continental. But I think it's just as well because I think Continental was dying anyway.
Yeah.
And he wrestles like some TV title matches with Tully in '87, I see right here. Oh, and the Jim Crockett Senior Memorial Cup in 1987. He teamed with Bob Armstrong, his dad. They defeated Arn Anderson and Kevin Sullivan in the second round of the Jim Crockett Cup. And they, I think in round one, they defeated Ivan Koloff and Vladimir Petrov by DQ in round one. But they lost in the quarterfinals to Lex Luger and Tully Blanchard on night two. Oh, well, at least they got to the final eight. They got to the Elite Eight of that tournament. So it's like with March Madness, like, we make the Elite Eight. Yeah, it's pretty good. Okay, so what do we have to say about this show?
I enjoyed it, actually. It was, like I keep saying, it was just great seeing pre-WWF Hulkamania era stars before they were there, like Jake and Ted DiBiase and King Kong Bundy. It was great seeing Nikolai. Oh, yeah, I forgot about Nikolai. And getting to appreciate Brad Armstrong a bit more. And I just couldn't believe the fact that King Kong Bundy could work as a face.
Yeah.
And then it came off as with the crowd buying into it. And overall, it was a fun show to watch.
I'd give this show like 1.5 birds to Paul Ellering out of 2.
Yeah, I give it. I give it 3.5 stunt grannies out of 5. Just some weird match. The spoiler match should have been the opening instead of, and I think that was a better match to go with for the opener.
Then Pez Watley and Jesse Barr.
Yeah, or even maybe put the Pez just as a, because that was all just like kind of like the 3 matches, like Jake and Garvin and then Road Warriors. And then the main event there, that was just like all killer, no filler kind of thing. You almost needed kind of like a bit of a break. That would have been a good time to put in the Pez and just as a give the fans a chance to go to washroom or go to the concession stands or whatever.
Maybe buy that Dominique Wilkins poster at the at the stand in the merch table at the Omni that they've been trying to get for a while.
Yeah.
Well, that does it for that house show from February of '84 from the Vault channel. But Dane, the next episode we're going to do, well, WrestleMania this year is going to be in Las Vegas. But how about we go back to the last time WrestleMania was in Las Vegas?
Oh, yes. From Caesar's parking lots.
Yeah, this isn't the actual Caesar's Palace where Caesar went, according to Zach Galifianakis. So we got a double main event, Dane. We got the tag team championship on the line between Money Inc. and the returning Hulkster and Brutus the Barber Beefcake for the tag titles.
Yes.
And then we got Bret Hart and Yokozuna for the WWF Championship.
Oh, yep, we got, and well, hey, Virgil warned Bret back at Survivor Series to watch out for that Yokozuna.
Oh, yeah, because the Titanic fell down on him.
Yeah.
Everyone should have listened to Virgil.
Yeah.
If Bret had listened to Virgil, it would have been, you know, whole different story.
Whole different story.
But one thing's for sure. We're going to celebrate like we have like a giant briefcase full of money, and we're just going to do a little money dance.
Oh, yes.
Hold on a second. I'm going to put the video on. I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Well, what's the GIF you say? Well, you'll find out about it in the next episode of the Squared Circle Time Machine.
Oh, yes.
We're going to go back.
Plus, we will try to answer the question: were there two doinks, or was it all an illusion?
I don't know. Bobby said it was an illusion, but I'm not sure I believe him. And also, I forgot one thing: togas. We got to bring togas.
Oh yeah, we got to wear the togas.
You think they're going to bring the togas back for Mania this year?
I hope so.
I hope there's some fans that if they paid the God bless them $10,000 for the tickets, they got to show up in togas,
or at least also do, since everything else like SmackDown and NXT and Raw is all going to be at the T-Mobile Arena. Maybe they can do some tie-ins with the Golden Knights of the NHL, and everyone comes in dress up as Roman Centurions. I don't know.
Maybe you could use that weird Gila monster mascot they got.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Why they couldn't have just paid Lucasfilm to use Boba Fett, since that's basically the logo for the Golden Knights anyway.
Yeah.
Beyond me. But next time, we'll be here. We'll be talking WrestleMania 9 right here on the Squared Circle Time Machine. That's Dane. I'm Greg, and we'll see you with episode 7 coming soon.
Get those tickets early and tonight in Columbus.
Yeah, tonight in Columbus, Cleveland, Grand Rapids, it don't really matter, Ronnie Garvin, because you say you're tough. Well, I want to know, Garvin, are you tough enough to take this from me? If not, then you better go on home, boy, because you got something different when you look at me. Columbus, Ohio, Gordon Soley, the Legion of Doom goes up against you, Stan Hansen. You